Shalom, shalom. I'm going to start out this video by giving all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, Ba'ashem, Rakakodash. Double honors to the apostles and the elder bishops, a great millstone that rule well, that teach well, while learning the truth 100% according to the Bible. Also want to say shalom to the elect, the 144,000 men, prophets, servants scattered abroad, the four corners of the earth, and shalom to the Akwaf, which are you sisters that are sincere in your children, shalom. And in today's video, as you can see, is going to be another video touching on World War III and the information that is currently, new to the scene of the war and what's transpiring around the world. You got everything building up. So here it is. I got these few articles I'm going to show, and then I'm going to show this video, and Lord's willing, I pray it be edifying, and I'm going to get a few precepts. But I'm going to read the title of this first article, right? It says, the U.S., right, prepares for military confrontation with Iran as Israel, right, those little hats over there in the land of Israel, those Amalekites, right, appears ready to strike as nuke talks stall, right? So basically you got those Israelis over there preparing to strike Iran, man, basically because you got Donald Trump that have, been trying to work out a peace negotiation with the Israelis. And we see that all of that is coming to a fall, man, that is not working because we're not living in that time of peace right now. Even though that's what Donald Trump want to ultimately tell people that's coming, and that's what he wants to get people mind accustomed to believing, we know that there won't be any peace, man, because there's a time and a place for everything. And matter of fact, I'm going to go and get that precept real quick through the spirit. All right, this is Ecclesiastes chapter 3, and I'm going to get right to the point at verse 8. It says, a time to love, right, and a time to hate, a time of war and a time of peace. And that's the time that we're living in right now, brothers and sisters. The Lord said there's a season for everything that's done in the earth. And we're in that time of war right now. That's why you're seeing all of these different countries arming up and preparing to fight. That's why you're seeing Taiwan going at China, and vice versa. You're seeing Ukraine and Russia tag teaming each other, going head to head with one another. You're seeing India and Pakistan fighting. You're seeing North Korea and South Korea again ready to go heads up with one another. So you just got all of these different nations around the world that are ultimately just, at odds with one another and, fighting against one another or making threats to fight one another, right? And we're living in that time right here. This is St. Matthew chapter 24, verse 6, but I'm going to read it in the NLT. It said, and you will hear wars, right? You got active wars that are ultimately taking place, right? And threats of wars, right? And I'm going to look at that word threats, right? For edification's sakes, because this is what you see a lot of these countries making towards one another. Bold threats, man, as I'm going to show you in this next article that I have. But this is the definition of that word threats, right? The meaning of it, I should say. And it means a statement of an intention to inflict pain or injury or damage, right? So ultimately, that's what you got a lot of these states and countries making towards one another, threats of inflicting damage militarily upon one another, right? So that's what we see going on, man, and that's ultimately what's going to happen, in the near future, right? All of these conflicts won't just be them talking about, ultimately inflicting damage upon one another or harming one another. It's going to actually turn into actions, man, which is going to be World War III popping off, man, right? So I'm going to finish reading this Matthew 24 and 6. It says, and you will hear of wars and threats of wars, but don't panic. Yes, all these things must take place, but the end won't follow immediately, right? And we know ultimately that, it won't go nuclear, this third world war, to ultimately that MOTBC hip is made mandatory. So we know that World War III is on the horizon of coming, but we also know that that chip is coming as well, because we're in that season where all of these other prophecies are beginning to speak and beginning to manifest. So it's only a matter of time before Esau Edom, comes with that chip, man, that MOTB, right? So I'm gonna get back into these articles that I got. Just going into the threats that we see these countries ultimately making towards one another, right? Here go another one. It said U.S. on high alert as it pulls staff from Middle East amidst fears of Israeli strike on Iran, right? So here it is. You got the United States basically pulling a lot of their personnel out of these different embassies around the world in the Middle East right now, because of their fear that the Israelis could possibly, strike Iran in the near future, man. So they're trying to, set everything up and get their people out of there, right? So all of these is just going towards that war that's ultimately about to happen, And this is another one. It said Trump warns of military action if Iran talks collapse, right? So basically, we know that there's going to be action, man, because Iran is basically not going to bow down to the U.S. We know that that's not going to happen because that's not a part of prophecy, man. We know ultimately that Iran is going to, keep going and continuing with their nuclear program. They're not going to put it up just because America's threatening them, man. They're going to continue to do what they're doing because ultimately they know that they have Russia protecting them, man. Russia is going to be their protector, as it tells you in Ezekiel 38, how Gog, right? Russia shall be a protector or a guard, right, to Persia, which is modern day Iran. So Iran really isn't as scared of America in this time because they know that they have Russia, which is going to be backing them, man, right? Which is the whole part of the BRICS alliance that all of these nations are a part of, with Russia leading that, right? Because Russia is the one that's going to lead the charge ultimately in World War III and be the main one responsible for the destruction of America, man, right? And that's what everything is coming towards. So here go another article. It said Iran, right, vows destructive and forceful revenge if Israel, right, launches a nuke site strike as Middle East sits on the brink of war, right? And these things are about to happen, man. Like I said, as it tells you in Habakkuk 2 and 3, for the vision, meaning the prophecies, right? And World War III is a part of prophecy, man. Is yet for an appointed time, but at the end it shall speak and not lie. Though it tarry, wait for it, because it will surely come, it will not tarry. So we know ultimately all of these different events are going to happen at the time appointed, man. But we're seeing all of these dominoes begin to fall into effect now for these events to ultimately to take place, right? But here it is, another article. It said, Trump's Golden Dome missile defense system makes World War III more likely, says expert, right? And we know ultimately Donald Trump knows this place America is going to be hit with nukes. That's why he's trying to come up with this whole Golden Dome missile system, because he thinks he's ultimately going to alter prophecy, man. He thinks he's going to stop those nukes from ultimately, coming to this place America and destroying it, right? That's why he's trying to set up this Golden Dome, to ultimately to think he can stop those hypersonic missiles from ultimately coming into America, man, right? But we know that ultimately all of those missiles, when they do get shot off in this Third World War and they make their way over here to America, that they will not miss, and I'm going to go to a precept just to prove that, right? This is Second Esdras chapter, I'm going to start at chapter 16, right? And I'm going to go straight to the point. I'm going to go to verse 13. It said, for strong is his right hand that bendeth the bow, right? That bow is talking about those ICBM missiles, man, right? Because they got to be launched from the silos, but you also got missiles that can be launched from submarine. You got missiles that can be launched from nuclear bombers that they have, right? The helicopters and the planes, right? So it says his arrows that he shooteth are sharp, right? That's going into those missiles, man, right? Hypersonic missiles, supersonic missiles, right? And it said, and shall not miss when they begin to be shot into the end of the world, right? And the end of the world is this place, Babylon the Great, America, the North American continent. This is the end of the world where we're at, right? And it said, behold, the plagues are sent, right? Talking about those missiles, and shall not return again until they come upon the earth, right? And this is verse 15. It said, the fire is kindled and shall not be put out till it consume the foundation of the earth, right? And that's what those missiles are going to do, man. They're going to melt everything over here in America, man. As it tells you in 2 Peter 3 and 10, that the elements and everything therein shall be melted with fervent heat, man, right? So this is verse 16. It said, like as an arrow, which is shot of a mighty archer, returneth not backwards, right? Because once they hit the button on those missiles and the Lord put the spirit on them to launch these ICBMs at one time in unison against America, they're not coming back, man. Because once you press that button, then they're going to be shot off, man. And they're going to hit wherever they're designed to hit at. They're not going to be, they can't be sent back once they are, that button is pressed, right? So it said, even as the plagues that shall be sent upon earth shall not return again, right? So once those missiles get shot out of those silos during this Third World War, which is going to happen soon, nothing is going to stop it, man. Only thing is going to save you ultimately from this destruction is being part of the Lord's elect, man, and praying and hoping that you be delivered and you can escape this judgment, because this is what's coming, man, right? To America. Right, so I'm going to get into this video so we can basically listen to what it is that they're talking about. But this is the latest news that's happening. Fair use on the 1976 Copyright Act. Not getting paid for this video. This is only for educational purposes only. Fair use.
Officials have been informed that Israel is now fully prepared to launch a military operation against Iran. According to multiple sources cited by CBS News, the development has heightened tensions in the region, with the U.S. now anticipating potential retaliation from Iran on American sites in neighboring Iraq. Israeli Defense Forces have reported.
Right, so you hear what it is she said, just a little bit she said. She said basically you got Israel, from what I showed you, brothers and sisters, in the articles, are preparing to strike Iran, man. And we know that's going to bring forth this prophecy. This is Jeremiah chapter 50. And I'm going to start at verse 45, KJV. It says, "Therefore hear ye the counsel of the Lord, Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua, that he have taken against the Babylon," right? "And his proposals that he have proposed against the land of the Chaldeans. Surely the least of the flock shall draw them out, and surely he shall make their habitation desolate with them," right? That's talking about the little hats. They're the least of the flock, man. And they're going to draw America, right, the whore, into this third world war with Russia, Iran, China, and all of these other nations, man, because America is really trying to stay out of it. But once we know that these little hats attack Iran, which will happen, that's going to draw America into the situation. And then that's going to draw Russia and all of his allies and partners into it. And that's when they're ultimately going to destroy America, man. So we see these prophecies speeding up quickly, man. That's how we know it's only a matter of time before that MOTBC hip comes out, or until it's made mandatory, because we see everything else happening, man. It's only a matter of time, right? So I'm going to get back into the video. Salakia.
Neighboring Iraq. Israeli Defense Forces have reportedly increased the deployment of Iron Dome surface-to-air missile batteries near strategic locations across Israel, including a battery that has been moved near Silvad in the West Bank. The movement indicates a strengthening of Israeli air defense capabilities at key sites. On the other hand, Iran has reportedly intensified GPS jamming operations over Iraqi airspace, especially near the Iran-Iraq border, affecting both military and civilian aircraft navigation signals. Meanwhile, according to reports, U.S. CENTCOM Chief Army General Michael Eric Kurela has postponed his scheduled Senate testimony due to heightened tensions in West Asia. The testimony was earlier set for today before the Senate Armed Services Committee, which will be now rescheduled. Earlier, U.S. President Donald Trump confirmed that American personnel are being moved from West Asia due to rising tensions with Iran, describing the region as potentially dangerous.
Well, they are being moved out because it could be a dangerous place, and we'll see what happens. But they are better. We've given notice to move out. We'll see what happens.
A U.S. official said Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth authorized the voluntary departure of military dependents from locations across West Asia. Washington is reducing staff levels at its embassy in Iraq as well, while similar measures are being taken in Bahrain and Kuwait, with voluntary departure of non-essential U.S. personnel and their families. The United States has multiple bases in West Asia, with the largest located in Qatar. Now, the decision to move U.S. personnel comes after Iran threatened that all U.S. bases in the region are within its reach and would be targeted in the event of a conflict.
God willing, it won't come to that, and the talks will yield results. But if they don't, and conflict is imposed on us, the enemy's losses will undoubtedly be greater than ours. In that case, America will have to leave the region, because all its bases are within our reach. We have access to them, and without hesitation, we will target all of them in the host countries.
All right, so you hear what it is Iran is basically saying. They're basically telling America that if you allow Israel to attack them, then they're going to attack your bases. So like I said, this is basically everybody joining together and ultimately coming up against this place, America, man. Right? And that's going to lead into this war right here, which we currently see being built up. I'm going to go to Joel chapter 3. And I'm going to start at verse 9, right, in the KJV. And it says, "Therefore, Salakia, proclaim ye this among the Gentiles, which are these heathen nations," who is talking about in this sense, "prepare war." And that's what you see all of these different nations doing, man. From Russia to China to the Japanese to the Koreans, all of these heathen nations, man. The Ishmaelites, which are the so-called Arabs, all of these nations are preparing for war, right? All the heathens. It says, wake up the mighty man, let all the men of war draw near, let them come up, right? Verse 10, beat your plowshares into swords and your pruning hooks into spears, let the weak say I'm strong. And that's what you got happening. You would have never had Iran in the later years, 10, 20 years ago. They would have never threatened America the way that they're threatening America now, man. And that's because ultimately they know that this place is weak, man, militarily, and they ultimately have the same weapons that America has, which are those ICBM nuclear missiles, right? And they have received these missiles from their partner, Russia, man, the bear. They have given Iran this technology and these capabilities. So that's why they're able to threaten America so boldly now, right? So it says, verse 11, assemble yourselves and come all ye heathen and gather yourselves together round about thither. Cause thy mighty ones to come down, O Lord. Verse 12, let the heathen, right, be wakened and come up to the valley of Jehoshaphat, for there will I sit to judge all the heathen round about. So this is what we ultimately see everything being led up to, right? The battle of Armageddon, man, where the Lord is going to judge all of these nations that ultimately came up against his people, man, that have fought against his people, right? The Lord is bringing all of these nations together into over there, what they call today the Middle East and the valley of Saudi Arabia, where he's going to judge them, man, Because we know ultimately our Lord Yahushua is going to come in the midst of World War III. Before that nuclear destruction hits America, he's going to beam up his elect and everything else is going to go from there, man. So I'm going to get back into this video. But we're approaching these times fastly, brothers and sisters. Like I said, these things are not being prolonged, man. They're speeding up, We're at the end, man.
However, U.S. President Donald Trump has asserted that the United States will not permit Iran to develop nuclear weapons, emphasizing the country's safety concerns in the region.
They can't have a nuclear weapon. Very simple. They can't have a nuclear weapon. We're not going to allow that.
Meanwhile, U.S. officials have said Trump's special envoy Steve Witkoff is planning to meet with Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi for a sixth round of talks on the country's nuclear program. Oman has confirmed that it will host a sixth round of nuclear talks on Sunday. And to discuss more, we are now being joined by Dr. Meir Javed Nafat from Tel Aviv. He's a lecturer of Iranian politics at Reichman University in Israel and co-author of The Nuclear Sphinx of Tehran. Welcome to Beyond, sir. First up, your assessment of the situation that we are seeing at this point of time in West Asia, with Iran threatening to target U.S. military bases in Iraq, and U.S. President Donald Trump clearly saying that he's not optimistic of reaching a nuclear deal.
Yes, we are at a deadlock. The Islamic Republic of Iran has insisted that it will not allow the dismemberment of its enrichment program as requested by President Trump, and that this is a red line for the leadership of the Islamic Republic.
Right. So you basically just heard everything he said in the video. So Iran basically saying that, they're not going to turn away their nuclear enrichment program, that they're not going to stop basically making nukes or, developing the technology to assemble nukes, I should say. And Trump saying that they're not going to achieve them. So we know only one thing could possibly happen out of all of this. And that's why I'm going to get this precept right here. This is Revelations 11:14. It said the second woe was past, and behold, the third woe, right, cometh quickly. And that's what we're seeing ultimately coming, brothers and sisters, and it's coming soon. So, that's pretty much everything I had to say with today's video. Just a quick little update. Lord's willing to be edifying. Till the next time, I'm going to say shalom to the elect.